Michael Carnevale is branch manager and financial advisor. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, 400 Southbridge Street in Auburn, Massachusetts, 1-800-657-9126. A member of FINRA SIPC and are not deposits, not insured by FDIC or any governmental agency, not guaranteed by Webster 5 Cent Savings Bank, and subject to risk, may lose value. Webster 5 Cent Savings Bank is not affiliated with Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated. The information contained in this report does not purport to be a complete description of the securities markets or developments referred to in the material. The information has been obtained from sources considered to be reliable, but we do not guarantee that the foregoing material is accurate or complete. Any information is not a complete summary or statement of all available data necessary for making an investment decision and does not constitute a recommendation. Any opinions are those of Michael Carnevale and not necessarily those of RJFS or Raymond James. Expressions of opinion are as of this date and are subject to change without notice.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Richard Morchoe, monthly Long-Hill Report, conversations with Mike Carnevale. Mike Carnevale, branch manager at Raymond James, and is with Webster 5 in Auburn. And he is again here to set us straight in what's happening in the greater world of the economy. So we have information from Mike that this is actually December was.
Yeah, we kind of cover what happened in December and then kind of maybe recap what happened all of last year.
That's a good idea.
You know, it's funny. Just the number-wise, the Dow Jones, and we picked the Dow Jones because that's what the mainstream media always tells you. There are a lot of other indexes, some may be more important than others, but Dow Jones last year was up about 20%. So you say, well, that's great. And it actually is great, one of the better years historically. But if a year ago, we were sitting here and we said, well, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in 2021. Right? We're going to have an assault on the Capitol. This COVID-19, there's going to be multiple variants.
We lost a war.
We lost a war. Energy is going to be at a 7-year high. Inflation is going to be a decade's year high. I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen this year. So how much money do you want to put in the stock market?
And if you had said all of it, you would have done pretty darn well.
You would have done very well. But most people would have said, oh, nothing.
I'm going to the cave.
Yes. So if you did that and then came out of that this year, and you're at the gate there to leave the cave, and you're going to get paid out for what happened in 2021, and there's a big pile of money sitting behind the gatekeeper, and you say, oh boy, I'm glad Mike Carnevale told me what was going to happen. I didn't go in the market, right? And the gatekeeper turns to his left, pulls out his pocket, and gives you some coins. That's what you earned last year. What? Yeah, but you said you did want to go in the market, so you earned about 1/4 to 0.5%.
$1.380.
Yeah. What about that big pile of money? Oh, that's for the people who were actually in the market.
The stupid people.
Yeah. And that's why, last year was, I think, a good year for people to reflect on. You can't predict the future. And you can't, and it's a losing battle to bet against the U.S. economy.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Carnevale made none of those predictions of what happened, but didn't do too badly on the money side. Tell us all the good things that are going to happen this year, and scare us.
Well, a lot of the good things have already happened, right? We're here.
We're here.
I mean, from that standpoint, it can't get any better. No. So, what could happen this year? Well, interest rates probably will go up. Again, people say, well, that's bad. Everything's relative. Go up in comparison to what? So you would like the opposite. rates going way down. Well, interest rates go way down, that means the economy's got to be in pretty bad shape, right? Because the way the government gets the economy going is with money. So if the economy is really bad, to get people to spend or borrow, you got to lower the rates to entice them.
And we've talked about this. All right, where do you want the even keel? What would be the perfect Mike Carnevale interest rate? Can that even be thought of?
No, because what you want to do is, again, it's all relative. What do you want the interest rate to be? Depends on where the economy is. I mean, if the economy is booming, you want the interest rates pretty high to slow it down. If the economy is really bad and unemployment's really high, then you want the interest rates really low to spur on growth.
Now,
right now, you probably do need rates a little higher because of the inflation that we have right now.
and that has been the buzz, that they are going to go up.
Correct.
Now, is there a possibility ever of an even keel? And why would, first of all, I know the term is taking away the punch bowl
Right.
when you put up the.
Right.
Why would we want to slow down the economy? I mean, if there are, I mean, this is the theory. This is the lower interest rates, higher interest rates.
Right.
Why do we want to slow it down?
Slow the economy. You'd want to slow the economy down if it was growing so fast. You ran the risk of having sort of like a hyperinflation type thing.
Bingo. Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to.
Correct.
Okay.
The other reason you don't want rates so low that they tend to stagnate the economy.
So low that they would stagnate.
Growth. So
Yeah.
that, in other words,
Stagflation.
Right. Exactly. Correct.
So you can have, and I think this has happened in Europe. They actually went to negative interest rates.
Some of them still are. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that can't last forever.
No.
But what can last forever?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing really. I mean, you know, the cycle. It just depends on how long it is. It's either really quick or it's stretched out over, like now, over a decade or so, really, where you've had, low inflation, low interest rates, low unemployment. I'm talking, over the last, 5 to 10 years. Things are starting to change a little bit. Now with inflation, the Fed talked about it being just a sort of a blip or transitory. Now they backed away from that.
Yeah, they.
It's hard to say what the future is for inflation because, how much of it was COVID related, how much of it is this supply chain issue, stuff we really haven't had before.
Well, there was we probably never had a stimulus situation like we had.
No.
So we're all part of an experiment.
Yep. And some people say, whoa, the debt level is so high. Yeah, it is if you don't grow. But if you're growing faster than your debts, it's not a problem. And the reason, and how's it going to end? Well, nobody knows. So you got to take a look at, what forecasts these type of things. And one of the things is the stock market. The stock market is one of the 10 leading economic indicators, right? So stock market's going up. So whether you believe it or not, the powers that be, whoever they are, institutions or whatnot, believe that the Federal Reserve knows what they're doing. Because if they didn't, they would be selling. And interest rates, although retail rates might be going up, the treasury yields and stuff have not gone up. They've done the exact opposite. Although in December they did go up. But they have not really gone up. It's still under 2% for the 30-year treasury. So that's telling you that the big institutions believe The Fed knows what they're doing, and inflation's not going to be a big problem long term. Because if it was, they wouldn't settle for under 2% for a 30-year bond. They would want a lot more.
Yeah, certainly a lot more. So the long bond is at
196 right now. Well, that's up about 0.1% over the past month, but it's still under 2%. You know, back in the spring, it was 215, 220, so it was a lot higher than where it is now.
And you know that's bid on the open market.
Correct.
So it's other people. Is it only the big banks that buy the long bond?
Essentially, it's institutions who control both the stock and the bond market. You know, we don't. 50 years ago, let's see, 50 years, no, longer than that now, probably 60, 70 years ago, the stock market was really made up of the little guy, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now it's hedge funds, institutions, and we don't really have much say in it. By the time it gets around to us, it's already happened.
Well, how big is like the institutions? You're a small town, in a relatively small town. You're not in New York City.
Right. Or the institutions would be like Chase Manhattan, Citi, Bank America.
Where do your people you are working with you? Where do you put that money?
When you say where do we?
I mean, Fidelity or
No, it's generally, you know, individual stocks, bonds, funds.
so you diversify
Right.
a portfolio.
Right. And again, it's based on obviously the amount of risk somebody wants to take, the type of time frame they have. Again, no right or wrong answer, right? I mean, I'll tell you, we have people who are in their 90s, 100% in stock. We have people in their early 30s, not a dime in stock. The person in the 90s says, hey, goes up and, I'm drawing on what some people have said, right? Person 92 says, I'm not worried, it goes up and down. It's down today, it'll go up tomorrow. The person 31 says, I worked too hard for my money, I don't want to. There's no right or wrong answer. It's, how comfortable are you with the volatility of the risk?
At 90, when I get to 95,
It's not going to matter.
I don't care if
Absolutely.
I don't know. I read the book and reviewed the book, How to Change Your Mind, about LSD.
Okay.
95, I'm trying it.
Okay.
I'm not trying it today.
Anything before that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it's like the 92-year-old who said to me, you know, it goes up and down. Doesn't matter. I'm never going to spend it anyways.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to, at that age, you have to work really damn hard to spend it if
spend
you've
it.
done well.
Yep. Yeah. But again, it's everybody's looking for the answer. There is no answer.
There is no answer.
The answer is there is no answer.
The answer, just every day get up in the morning and
It's a road.
breathe in, breathe out.
As someone once said, it's a road. You're on a journey that is never going to end. So you just got to read the signposts.
Yeah.
Really, that's, you know, essentially that's where and for the people who, you know, believe in the economy, and that's different than believing in the politics or whatnot. I'm talking, if you believe in the economy, I wouldn't be betting against the U.S. You may win short term, but you're guaranteed to lose long term. The stock market, I always say, has always made all-time highs. It's never made all-time lows.
We really have no choice but to bet on the U.S. because of where
Correct.
we live. I mean, if you want to move to Shanghai, go ahead. You've placed your bet by doing that.
Right.
But unless you're making an exodus out of here, you have no choice but to bet here.
Right. Now, you don't want to be reckless. You know, you don't want to go in something, you know, blindfolded. And that's why you want to look at, or the stuff I would look at is some key economic stuff monthly to get a trend on how things are going, which is what we try to do.
Okay, want to go through this?
Yeah, we can. You know, We also look at some technical indicators, right? And that gives us a snapshot of where we are today compared to where we were in the past, whether you want to do a day, a month, or a week, or whatever. So the market had a very good December. We're up like over 5%. So what do you think happened to the technical indicators? They probably got worse, right? Because as prices inflate, risk increases.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. The New York Stock Exchange 200-day moving average, that's the percentage of stocks that are listed on the New York Stock Exchange that are above their average price for the past 200 days or 1 year's worth of trading. They're at 55% now. A month ago, they were 45%. Now, you'd expect that, right? Because the market went up. Volatility, a month ago was at 27, which was very high. Today it's 17. There's less fear. Why? People tend to be less worried or fearful when prices go up. People get fear after they've gone down. Nobody's afraid at an all-time high. They're afraid when it's at an all-time low. Then the oscillator talks about short-term movement. Very low a month ago. The market really went up. So what do you think happened? That went up also. So the technical indicators tell you, well, what do you think is going to happen in January? Well, probably not as good as December. And so if January is not as good as December, you shouldn't be concerned, because that's what it kind of said it was, right? It's going to, you're going to get, they're talking 4 to 8 inches of snow coming, right?
Yeah.
So if you end up with 5.5 inches, you're not too concerned, right? Because you kind of expected it.
As long as I get into my parking space.
Correct. You got 30 inches. Well, that's you weren't expecting that.
Right.
And that's what those technical indicators do. They kind of, okay, how are we today compared to some other time period? A lot of people looking for rates to go up. Yeah, okay, that would be nice for savers, right?
Yeah.
You think they're going to go up? Well, I got a feeling. Well, feelings are not good. You got to look at, well, what are the world's banks doing? By and large, they're not raising rates. So if in last month the Fed and Canada and the European Central Bank didn't raise rates, what would give you the impression that your rate was going to go up? And so that's why we look at something like that. The Federal Reserve came out with their quarterly economic forecast. They raised some things, they lowered some things, but there really was nothing really shocking there. They do think that inflation is going to start to come down. And if you can open up that supply movement of goods, it probably would lead you to think prices would drop a bit.
Yeah. We haven't heard I haven't heard anything in the last week or so about those containers in California.
No.
Is anything happening?
I haven't heard anything either. I mean, it was on the nightly news every day for a while, and now you said, right, you don't hear anything about it. So it's either getting better, because if it was getting worse, somebody would probably be telling us.
Yeah. Well, okay, so inflation.
So we like to look at 4 economic things to see how the economy is doing, to kind of give us a feel for, well, what's going to happen. Inflation's a problem.
6.8%, that's a big number.
That is. Really the highest in decades. But again, how much of that is the COVID, the constraint of goods moving? We don't know, because we've never had this before.
That's true.
Feds wasn't concerned. They kept calling this transitory, right?
They did.
Then they dropped that word, but they still don't seem to be overly concerned. Okay, so you got to look at something else to see.
Transitory, the new variant, which
Correct.
is not transitory,
Correct.
is less virulent.
Correct.
Okay.
And so you got to look at, well, okay, so that's kind of inconclusive. So where do you look? I would look at the 30-year Treasury as an indicator of inflation. If you saw the 30-year Treasury yield going up, that would tell you that those institutions are worried about inflation. The exact opposite is happening. The other thing we like to look at is economic indicators. You know, the stock market's one of those. Leading economic indicators is a good thing to look at monthly. It's 10 items that kind of give you a snapshot of the economy. Whether it's positive and the size of the gain isn't as important as the trend, and whether it's ever negative. Because history shows 3 straight negative monthly readings signal the start of a recession.
Right.
For the month of November, which is the latest report, we've had 19 straight monthly reports that have not been negative. So if somebody's telling you, oh, we're going to be in a recession soon, again, what are you basing it on?
It's at least 3, at this point,
It's at least 3 months away. Right. It's not imminent.
Yeah.
Jobless claims?
Lowest
since 1969.
That's good.
That's good. The flip side of that's the good side. The bad side, we know a lot of people have left the job market.
That's another aspect. And we were speaking before the show. Wages have not been going up.
Correct.
So that's an aspect of that. People are just saying, "Hey, sucker me back in when you're paying me something."
Correct. And we see that wages are up about roughly 5% over the past year, yet inflation is up 7 or 8%. So wages are not keeping pace with inflation.
They're being eaten up.
They're being eaten up. That's exactly right. The other half of the employment picture, you know, jobless claims is great, but that just tells us how many people lost their job. The other side of that is the employment report. That's how many people found their job during the month, and what is the size of the labor force. So for November, the non-farm payroll, which is what they count, was up 210,000.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, because history shows that the economy right now needs 150,000 new jobs a month to grow. The other good news in November was that the size of the labor force grew.
Now, where is that? Because you hear about everybody's quitting the labor. You know, people are retiring. People
Right.
are just saying, "Hey, I'm not working for that pay."
Right.
Where are these people coming from?
So these are really two different numbers. For instance, X million people left their job. But if that number was smaller the following month, it's going to show that, well, the size of the force grew, meaning some of those people came back. And history shows people only come back if they feel good about the economy or their ability to get a job. So, yeah, one headline can read, 4 million people have said, that's it, I'm not working anymore. The size of the labor force increased by 100,000. How can that be? Because they're two different numbers, right? One is showing how many people left. The other is showing, okay, those people left, but in the past month, 100,000 of them came back. So the force grew by 100,000 from, in the month of November, grew 594,000
Right.
from October to November. But that doesn't mean more people didn't leave.
Okay.
It just shows there were more people looking for a job in November than there were in October.
Okay.
Unemployment came down again. People say, whoa, that's a good thing. Again, like everything economic or in the stock market, nothing is good or bad. It's all relative. You can get an unemployment. Unemployment only is people who don't have a job and are collecting benefits.
Right.
If you don't have a job and you've run through all your benefits, you're not considered unemployed
You're
anymore.
considered to have left the workforce.
Correct. So, again, the headline news, great news, unemployment's down to 4.2%. President comes on and says, oh, we got the lowest unemployment. Well, that's true. But is that because more people fell off the unemployment rolls than came on? If that's the case, then a falling unemployment is not good. And that's part of what we're seeing in the past year. People have exhausted their unemployment benefits. They still aren't working, whether they don't want to work or can't find work. And so, although they're unemployed, they're not counted as unemployed.
Some of them obviously are working under the table.
Correct. Sure. Oh, absolutely.
Because once you've exhausted your benefits, how do you live? I mean, well, you've got to eat.
Well, I mean,
well, I read a statistic today. 1 out of every 3 boomers is living with their parents, or Zoomers.
Yep.
Zoomers, I mean, they call them
Yep.
now, are living with their parents. Well, that's a big number.
Yep.
That.
A lot of people have raided retirement accounts and, credit cards and stuff like that. I mean, it's, the gap between the people who've done very well and who have not done very well is just getting bigger and bigger. So I don't know if it's in our lifetime, but in somebody's lifetime, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, because the numbers you're looking at, they go up, they go down, but, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1 month good, 1 month less good, then a bad month, then back to a regular month. But at what point?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So where's our cave, Mike? Where are we going to have our cave?
You don't know at this point. It would only be a guess.
Okay.
Because there's really not a clear-cut answer. I mean, a couple of sentence answer is, as long as we got China, we're okay.
But we're talking about going to war with China.
Well, unlikely, I think. They can't afford it.
Do you think we can afford that war?
I suspect if it was between us and China, we'd both be hurt, but we'd be the ones who were left standing.
Well, we are. I mean, when you say that can be a relevant term, left standing. Well, first of all, if it goes nuclear, it's
Oh, then it's all over.
We don't have to.
Right.
There's no.
Right.
After the nuclear war, we won't be having a show.
It won't matter what inflation is,
so you don't have to-
unemployment is,
Well,
or
you want me-
anything.
just let you know, the snowstorm, I'm not worried about that. Anyway, but saying it's a conventional war.
Yeah.
I saw a debate, and somebody asked the question of one of the debaters, hey, you just said we have to push back against China.
Mm-hmm.
And we're putting those aircraft carriers between China and Taiwan.
Yeah.
One of those goes down. There are 6,000 souls on that aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm.
Do we still win? I mean, because they're saying the aircraft carriers have a certain obsolescence.
Right. I suspect, and I don't know, I mean, no one knows. I suspect you'll never get to that point because China knows.
Do we know?
I think we do. China knows, okay, you alienate us. Who are you going to sell all the cheap merchandise to? Oh, and by the way, you're the biggest owner of our debt. So if the U.S. goes down, you're right there with us because you're holding our debt.
And you think that threat is that bad enough? I would say we should get that threat and understand that. I hope we do.
I think we do. I think, you ever see, you ever involved in something and you say to yourself, geez, how come they don't see that? We see it. They see it. They're just not going to admit it publicly. I see this every day where someone says, doesn't the person above you see what's going on? Of course they do. But they're just never going to say anything about it. And I mean, China didn't get to be the second or third biggest economy by being dumb. They know exactly how far they can take something.
But remember also, China has a much longer history and a much greater sense of what it is to be a Chinese person than we have to be American.
But just like the knucklehead in North Korea, they know just how far to take it. And then they stop because they know, number one, they want to survive.
Okay, I'm going to point out one thing to you.
Okay.
The knucklehead in North Korea did not end at the end of a rope, and the knucklehead in Iraq did.
Right.
They have a nuclear weapon. The game has changed. And that's the thing we have to think about. This is nuclear. And North Korea isn't, okay, what are they willing to give up?
Yep.
They're not willing to give up their sovereignty. They will go to the mat to the end of that.
Right. And so to what your point was a few minutes ago, so they go to the nuclear, we go to the nuclear, it doesn't matter, it's all done.
There you go. And we won't have the show on the after nuclear war, just letting you know. Thank you very much, Mike. It
We'll
has
see
been wonderful.
Okay.
I'm worried, but wonderful.
Don't be.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.